change the columns of a particular Pandas data frame, we use the Pandas DataFrame rename function. This function can be used to change both the labels of the column and the indices, that is, both axis labels. The parameters of the function include a mapper, which can be either a dictionary or a function that defines how the labels transformations should be applied. If we want to specifically change the labels of the index, we can just use the index parameter instead of mapper and axis equals 0. If we want just to change the columns, we can use the columns parameter instead of mapper and axis equals 1. The axis parameter takes by default the value 0, which means that transformations are done along the index. It can also take the value 1, which means that the transformations will be applied across the columns. The axis parameter is used in conjunction with the mapper parameter to specify the target axis of the mapper. The copy parameter specifies whether the data should be copied as well. By default, this is set to true. The inplace parameter, as with many other pandas methods, specifies whether we should return a new data frame or we should just change the existing one. By default, it's set to false. The level parameter is used whenever we are dealing with a multi-index. By default, level is set to none. If it's set to an integer, then the rename method will only rename labels in the specified level. The errors parameter is set by default to ignore, which means that only existing keys will be renamed and extra keys will be ignored. Alternatively, the errors parameter can also be set to raise, in which case a key error will be raised when the mapper contains labels that are not present in the existing index. By default, the rename method will return a data frame with the rename axis labels, or it will return none if in place is set to true. Let's see a few examples. To rename columns using a mapping, we first define our data frame with the columns A and B. To rename the two columns, we can simply call the rename method with the parameter columns and the dictionary containing the columns that we want to rename. To rename an index, we call the rename method with the index parameter set to a dictionary containing as keys the labels that we want to change. We can also use the same index parameter to simply cast the labels to a different type, in this case from integer to string. Finally, we see two examples of using rename with a mapper and the axis parameter as well, set to either columns or index.
If you want to stay in touch and receive notification whenever I release new videos related to data science, machine learning, AI, please click that subscribe button and also hit the notification bell if you want to get notifications as soon as possible. Thank you very much for watching this video and see you soon.